The Savannah Way is Australia's adventure drive, linking the historic pearling town of Broome in Western Australia's Kimberley with Cairns in tropical North Queensland, via the natural wonders of Australia's tropical savannas and the Northern Territory's top end. The 3,700 kilometre route links 15 national parks and 5 World Heritage Areas. You can explore just a section or cross the continent enjoying its wide horizons, ancient gorges and abundant wildlife, connecting with Aboriginal and pioneer heritage in today's friendly outback. Our journey starts in Broome, which is a pearling and tourist town in the Kimberley region of Western Australia, 2,200 kilometres north of Perth. The permanent population is estimated at 14,500, growing to over 45,000 per month during the tourist season. In 1879, it was suggested that the pearling industry could be served by a port closer to the pearling grounds near the Dampier Peninsula. In 1883, Roebuck Bay was chosen as the site for the town, and it was named after Sir Frederick Broome, the then Governor of Western Australia. In 1889, a telegraph undersea cable was laid from Broome to Singapore, connecting to England, hence the name Cable Beach. The town's Japanese cemetery is the resting place of 919 Japanese divers who lost their lives working in the pearling industry. Many more were lost at sea and the exact number of deaths is unknown. Broome was attacked at least 4 times by Japanese aircraft during the Second World War, and the worst attack was the 3rd of March 1942, in which at least 88 people, mostly civilians, were killed. 30 metres out to sea at Gantham Point are dinosaur footprints dated approximately 130 million years old. The tracks can be seen only during very low tide, and moulded casts of the prints can be seen at the point. The Broome Bird Observatory, sited in Pindan woodland close to the northern shore of Roebuck Bay, was established by Birds Australia in 1988 and was formally opened in 1990. The purpose of the observatory is to study the birds, learn how to protect them and educate the public about them. They have accommodation packages to suit most styles and budgets in a delightful bush setting on the shores of Roebuck Bay. We're just leaving Roebuck Plains Roadhouse and we're starting the road part of the journey of the Savannah Way, heading towards Derby. So we're there. Willare Roadhouse is 165 kilometres from Broome when heading towards Derby. It has a general store, an outdoor dining and drinking area, and offers accommodation in the form of rooms, dongas, powered and unpowered sites. Scenic joyrides depart from the roadhouse regularly, and you can look out over the Fitzroy River and Yeeda Station. The Willare Roadhouse 4-hour enduro is a desert-style 40-kilometre closed loop track consisting of Pindan soil and river sand for motorbikes and is held annually. At the 2006 census, Derby had a population of 3,100, with about half of Aboriginal descent. Along with Broome and Kununurra, it is one of only 3 towns in the Kimberley to have a population over 2,000. Located on King Sound, Derby has the highest tides in Australia, with a peak differential between low and high tide reaching 11.8 metres. During World War II, Derby was bombed by Japanese planes because of an airbase and jetty that was being used by Australian forces. The jetty is a popular place from which to view the stunning sunsets over King Sound or to fish for silver cobbler, shark, golden grunter, northwest salmon and mud crabs on the incoming tides. The Boab prison tree is believed to be around 1500 years old and has a girth of 14.7 metres. It was used as a staging point for prisoners being walked into Derby in the early days. The concrete trough was built in 1916-17. This trough could handle 500 bullocks at one time and was later extended to a length of 120 metres. Built in 1944 as a bathing area for troops stationed in the area during the Second World War, Frosty's Pool is one of the few remaining reminders of those years in the town. 5th of July 2013 and we're on the road out of town, out of Derby. We're heading now towards Fitzroy Crossing. Derby is of course the start of the Gibb River Road, and as you get to just a few kilometres out of town, Gibb River Road takes off to the left hand side. That's it, the Gibb River Road turn off. And it's just a few hundred metres more to the prison Boab tree, Frosty's Pool and the long water trough. There's a rest area just around the corner. First major rest stop after you leave the Derby turn-off is rather unique. It has quite a huge Boab tree in the centre of it. And there's a few people here, as you would expect. The Australian Boab tree is related to the Madagascan and African Adansonia species known as baobabs. Boab trees are deciduous. They drop all their leaves during the dry season and flower and fruit in the wet season. Flowering can start as early as October. Mature Boab nuts are woody capsules of varied shapes and can reach enormous size. When the dark surface of the Boab nut is scratched away, it reveals a light colour underneath. Today, many Aboriginal artists of the Kimberley use Boab tree nuts in paintings. Livestock on the side of the road is always a worry. Horses, cattle mainly. You'd never have an idea whether they're just going to walk out in front of you or not. Fitzroy Crossing is situated on a low rise surrounded by the vast floodplains of the Fitzroy River and its tributary Margaret River. In 2006, the population of the Fitzroy Crossing town site was approximately 1,500, with a further 2,000 or so people living in up to 50 Aboriginal communities scattered throughout the Fitzroy Valley. About 80% of the Fitzroy Valley population were Indigenous Australians, with a split of closer to 60 to 40 Aboriginal to settler in the town site. Tourism, cattle stations and mining are the main industries in the area. The area was first settled by Europeans in 1886 by Mr MacDonald when he set up the Fossil Downs cattle station. Fitzroy Crossing received its first bridge in 1935, which was built up into a more substantial structure in 1958. However, this bridge could be closed for months during the monsoonal summer. In 1974, a new bridge was built 200 metres south of the crossing, which moved the focus of the settlement from its original site. The town was gazetted in 1975, but had been shown on maps since 1903. We've arrived at Geikie Gorge. This is the trailer parking area. Over there, the car parking area. Information centre. In 2002 and 1993, the peak of the roof was 2 metres underwater. Okay, we're now on the Geikie Gorge tour, boat tour.
That bottom half, the top of that bottom half has got a straight line across the level of the white level there. That indicates the average flood level of the Fitzroy River. Now these crocodiles are only adapted to taking smaller prey. You can see the size of their jaws. They've got a long, narrow, very skinny jaw. Now if they were to take on something that was a little bit too big for them, like a wallaby maybe, they run the risk of breaking their jaws and starving to death. The back of this bank here on the right hand side, we can't see it, is a ancient Aboriginal sacred site for women. It's a place called Lily Pond. It's a beautiful big pond full of beautiful water lilies, fed by a freshwater spring. Now men are forbidden to go up there. Men can't go up there unless they're to meet their future wives. They have to be taken in there by a senior woman. Small crocodiles lying in the mouth of that creek. And they will collect small bait fish coming out of the creek. But they won't actually eat the little bait fish. When they've got enough, they will actually swim to the bottom of the river and crunch up those little bait fish in their jaws and create a burley trail. The Aboriginal people have adapted a hunting method like that. They will go and stand by the side of the river with their spears. You can see them all through the Kimberleys growing on rocks like that. Their root system will actually go all the way down through the limestone, eventually working its way to the water level down in the river there. What a way to spend a Sunday morning. Speaking of rock falls, we do have the occasional rock fall. Birds flying in and out, they're fairy martins. Now these little birds migrate up here every dry season and they get right into their breeding program and they build these beautiful little mud nests all throughout the gorge under ledges like this. The reason they put their nest there is to keep them safe from predators like snakes and goannas. Believe it or not, we do see the occasional snake raiding some of these nests. But the 2002 floods did actually get higher than this year's floods. Apparently he had to survive off the fruit of these plants at some stage. And they look like little brown golf balls, and they reckon that's exactly what they taste like. I haven't actually tried one. But anyway, they kept Mr. Leichhardt alive, and now the plant's got his name. One of the universities, Murdoch University from Perth, they did a study on the fish life in the gorge a couple of years ago now. And they came up with 28 different species of fish. Just keep your eyes out up in the trees on the left-hand side as we go along. You'll get some idea of what gets washed downstream during the flood.
Not sure if what's on this one, Parry.
There's a few perfectly balanced rocks on top of the gorge as we're going along. If I could just draw your attention to the little window to our very left-hand side here.
Because of recent rains and road closures, we decided to leave the van at Fitzroy Crossing and do a day trip back to Windjana Gorge and Tunnel Creek. We're on Leopold Down Station, and of course it's station country and the cattle have precedence. So this bloke, he's decided to stop and have a look and say, who the heck are you? He'll take a run across the road sure as eggs. No. More often than not, they're likely to jump in front of you. Come around the corner and there's water right across the road. A lot of these floodways through here, and some of them are fairly steep, in and out, and narrow. And towing a caravan through here, which is what we had thought of doing to start with, because of the one of the options that we wanted, but because of the damp weather that's been happening, the roads are closed to certain vehicles, and also, as it turns out, probably would be problematical with the size of our van. It's 30 foot long overall, and even though it's got high clearance, it probably would be dragging the tail in a couple of places through some of the dips, so something to be wary of if you're towing a big van through here. That's between the Gibb River Road and Fitzroy Crossing through Windjana Gorge and Tunnel Creek. And the Devonian Reach is now sort of pulling in on the left hand side of us close to the road, and it's just down the road here, a couple of kilometres now to Tunnel Creek, which we will actually come back to. We're going to go down to Windjana Gorge first and then come back. There's some stunning countryside along here, just alongside the road. There's also hills on the other side, but this is the Devonian Reef along this side of the road, and it's through this the Tunnel Creek actually runs. It's interesting to see the Boab trees going halfway up the hill. Collection there if you have a look. Muddy water at that. This is the Tunnel Creek car park. So we'll be back to that a little later. We're now winding our way back through the Devonian Hills, Devonian Reef actually, and a lot more traffic coming the other way, coming in off the Gibb River Road, in from Windjana Gorge, heading down towards Tunnel Creek, but they tend to turn around and then head back towards the Gibb River Road. So a fair bit of traffic through this bit of area. We've reached the turn off for Windjana Gorge. In reasonable conditions, you can expect to get here in 2 to 3 hours from Fitzroy Crossing. 146 kilometres on to Derby from here. And we've done 152 kilometres to this point. Windjana Gorge was formed by the Leonard River, eroding away a 3.5 kilometre section of the Napier Range. The range was formed over 300 million years ago and is composed of Devonian limestone. The gorge is over 100 metres wide and the walls are between 10 metres and 30 metres in height. The area is popular with tourists and can be easily hiked through in the dry season. It has permanent waterholes and supports a habitat of monsoonal vegetation. Freshwater crocodiles are a feature of the area. Fossils of shells and other marine creatures are visible on some of the rock walls. We were having lunch when Aidan and Daryl wandered past and had a coffee with us. They were travelling 5,000 kilometres across Australia in 2 microlights, which are powered hang gliders, and 2 4-wheel drives with support and film crew. The aim of the project is to share through a documentary the positive stories of the diversity of characters living and working in remote Australia. They visited schools engaging with youth with the theme of positivity. They were fundraising and creating further awareness for the Royal Flying Doctor Service and Western Desert Dialysis, 2 critically important remote area services. They left from Hindmarsh Island approximately 80 kilometres south of Adelaide in May 2013 and finished in Broome. Lillimalura Station is prominent in the recent history of the Bungle people of the Kimberley region. Aboriginal people in the Kimberley were dispossessed of their land by pastoralists, deprived of their traditional hunting areas and forced to work on stations. In November 1894, Jandamurra and his followers attacked a party of 5 Europeans, killing 2 of them at Windjana Gorge. In late 1894, a posse of 30 or so heavily armed police and settlers attacked Jandamurra and his followers in Windjana Gorge. Jandamurra was wounded, but escaped. He was killed outside his hideout at the entrance to Tunnel Creek 2.5 years later in 1897. The film Jandamurra's War is recommended viewing. Tunnel Creek is a natural cave through which Tunnel Creek flows. Many Aboriginal rock paintings and spilia themes are present in the cave decorating the walls. The tunnel component of Tunnel Creek has a length of approximately 700 metres that runs underground and is one of the oldest cave systems in Western Australia. The reef was first exposed around 250 million years ago and the first cave systems began to form. The present cave systems were created about 20 million years ago. The cave reaches a maximum height of 12 metres and has a maximum width of 15 metres. There are at least 5 species of bat inhabiting the cavern. There are large pools of water on the floor of the cave in which freshwater crocodiles have been found. The pools indicate that the water table is only just below the present floor surface and water only flows through the area after heavy rainfall.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Pass. Parry Pool 24-hour stop over. Halls Creek is the gateway to a range of world-renowned natural attractions, including the World Heritage listed Bungle Bungles ranges of Purnululu National Park. It is located on the edges of the Great Sandy Desert and Tanami Desert, 362 kilometres south of Kununurra and 2,873 kilometres northeast of Perth. Halls Creek offers a genuine insight into the spectacular Australian outback, covering nearly 143,000 square kilometres of predominantly desert and pastoral country. Halls Creek has something for everyone, from wide open spaces and magnificent natural attractions to rich Aboriginal and European history and culture. Hospital. Plenty of room for parking caravans. All the supplies coming into town. attractions from Halls Creek are out along the Duncan Highway. And that's where we're heading right now. The China Wall acquired its English name because it is somewhat reminiscent of the Great Wall of China. The China Wall is a natural vein of subvertical white quartz rising up to 6 metres above the surrounding country in places. The striking formation transects the country for many kilometres, rising high out of the ground and then disappearing back into the earth again. Caroline Pool is a picnic, swimming and bushwalking place set amongst cool shady trees and wide sandy creek banks. Swimming is best following rains when the water level is high. Caroline Pool is known as Wamiri in the Jaru language. Older residents fondly remember Caroline Pool as the place where people would go on the weekend to swim and play sport on the river sand. It was also an important water source in the days of the early gold rush. Old Halls Creek is a very significant place. It is the site of the first gold discovery in Western Australia in 1885, when Charles Hall found a 28-ounce nugget, and was the original gold mining community where prospectors followed up the gold up the creeks and gullies from Brockman to Old Halls Creek. The Halls Creek gold rush was short-lived, but it nevertheless left an important legacy. The gold strike contributed to the establishment of the ports of Derby and Wyndham, as well as the town of Halls Creek, as men and mining equipment were brought in from places as far away as California. In the 1950s, the town of Halls Creek was relocated 14 kilometres away, and Old Halls Creek became a virtual ghost town. The foundations of the old mine shaft can still be seen, and visitors can still pan for gold here. The cemetery at Old Halls Creek contains the graves of many Kimberley pioneers. Most of the original mud slab buildings have eroded away to their foundations, although substantial sections of the old post office still remain. There is a lodge and caravan park here. Palm Springs is known as Windjana in Jaru language. This is a palm-fringed, spring-fed, permanent freshwater pool that has long been a refreshing stop for travellers along the dusty Duncan Highway. It is a famed oasis in the desert. Abundant local wildlife is dependent on this water source. Afghan teamsters are thought to have planted the original date palms found at Palm Springs. Afghan man Sam Hazlett and his Aboriginal wife Doodroo lived at Palm Springs for many years, using the springs for drinking water and growing vegetables, which he sold in Halls Creek. They maintained this valuable water resource by regularly cleaning out the reeds and overgrowth. Hazlett passed away in the 1980s, and Palm Springs has been unoccupied since that time. Couple of kilometres from the Bungles turn-off, there is this rest area which is on the Wood River. There is a toilet facility here. We're starting to see warnings about cane toads. Quite obviously people who are here have parked up, left their vans and are doing a day trip or a camping trip or whatever into the bungles themselves. Just a few kilometres up the road is the second of these 24-hour parks. This is probably the more popular of the two. So you can see there's a lot more caravans in here at the moment. It's 7-8 minutes past 10 in the morning. The early birds get down by the river. And as you've heard, there is actually signal in this area as well. Imagine being jammed in on top of a toilet. Again, there are basic toilet facilities here, but there is no dump point. 1 mile back on the main road, and just a few hundred metres up the road, it's the turn off into the Bungles. And the newly established, about 2 or 3 years ago now, Caravan Park. There's a gate to be opened. Caravan Park is actually set up a kilometre in off the road, and then it's a further 52 kilometres from there into the Bungles. through that footage I've been babbling away and you haven't heard a thing because I haven't had the mic turned on. Between the ranges are these areas of flat land. As you approach the Bungle range, you also approach the ranger station. All visitors to the park are required to register on arrival at the ranger station. Park entrance and camping fees apply, and the park is closed for the wet season from December to April. There are 2 campsites within the park, Willare and Caravan. Bush toilets, water and firewood are provided. Visitors are required to bring their own food, camping equipment and other supplies. Caravans are prohibited in the park. Once you leave the ranger station, you head down to a point that's called Three Ways Junction. You can go north up towards the Geikie Gorge, or you can go south, and that takes you around past the airport and around to the Domes and Cathedral Gorge and Piccadilly Gorge. There's a lookout just to the north of us called Kununurra. Anyway, it's about 1.5 kilometres to the north, and at night time, in the evening when the sun's coming down, it's just incredible that side. Watching the range change colour. We're going around to the Domes first. It's morning and the sun rises in the east, and that throws the light on the Domes. It's the best time to see them. Before 1982, the Bungle Bungles was virtually unknown to non-Aboriginal people. In 2003, the park received World Heritage listing in recognition of its extensive cultural and environmental values. For traditional owners, this is a sacred place to be looked after, cared for and respected. The park is famed for its unique and striking beehive orange and grey banded striped domes. These are highly fragile formations consisting of a thin outer layer of black lichen and orange silica with soft sandstone underneath. The domes were formed in the Devonian age and carved by erosion over the subsequent 360 million years. The orange bands are actually oxidised iron compounds. The grey ones are cyanobacteria. Punalulu National Park is extensive, encompassing almost 2.5 million hectares. It runs 25 kilometres north-south by 30 kilometres east-west. Much of the range area is transacted by a maze of deep gorges up to 200 metres in depth. Tall Liverstonia palms rise out of the gorge floor, searching for sunlight. There are several marked walking trails. Attractions include Cathedral Gorge, Mini Palms Gorge, Echidna Gorge, the Wallanganidgee Lookout and the epic Piccadilly Creek Walk. To the north of the Bungle Bungles lie the scenic Osmond Ranges. back at the three-way junction. To the left is out of the park, straight on. Now takes us up towards Echidna Chasm, up towards the top end of the park. As you approach the Echidna Gorge car park, it's the awesomeness of the hills in front of you. The interesting part is that as you come up to Echidna Gorge, you've got this range on your right hand side, or on the southern side of the road. But there's also a range of hills on the other side. And if you have a look at this one, it's treeless, it's barren. The other range of hills as you're travelling along is that one, and it's vegetated. Totally different to look at, and they wouldn't be a kilometre apart. Yeah, it's sort of unbelievable that two ranges of hills can be so close to each other in such proximity and be so totally different. Warmun, Turkey Creek. Yeah, which is diesel. Diesel, $1.99, eh? South of Warmun we came through a range of hills that, because we were talking to a semi-trailer driver, I forgot to hit the camera, but it's been a little bit flat since then. In front of us, quite an impressive range of mountains, hills, whatever you want to call them. We're also approaching Bow River. I don't think it's the one that Cold Chisel sang about. I often wonder whether it was or not, but that will be coming up shortly. A lot of single lane bridges up here. You can see which way the floodwaters flow by the fact that the trees are all leading from left to right. This area regularly gets washed out when it rains in the wet season. Wasn't signposted, but according to our map, that was the Bow River. Wide angle on the video unfortunately doesn't do justice to what we're seeing out through the windscreen. Just after the turn off to Crocodile Hole, that appears on the right hand side of the road going north, and that's Pompey's Pillar. Currently going through the O'Donnell Range. Roadhouse, it's up to the left hand side of the road. Our way in.
It's quite nice, isn't it?
I understand from a traveller yesterday that the fuel price in there is about $2.15 as opposed to $1.99 back down the road. This is the Dunham River.
Yes.
24-hour stopping here. Like cockatoos up the top of that. Okay, back onto the main road and turning towards Wyndham. That direction, we're heading towards Kununurra as much as anything, but we'll see where we wind up. Well, depending on what map you're looking at, this is either the Saw Range or the Deception Range, but whatever, we're about to go through it. There's no doubt about the hills up here in the north in the Kimberley are big, they're tall. We don't get this sort of countryside in the southern part of the state, except maybe in the Stirling Ranges, but it just keeps coming at you up here, one after the other. One range of hills or mountains, whatever you want to call them. We're now approaching Cockburn, it's called. It's the junction where you either turn to go to Wyndham or you go right to go to Kununurra. This is still all part of the Savannah Way. And there's a rest station on the corner. And for the first time since we left, gee, where's Mary's Pool, I think it was, there's a dump point here. And although this is midway between Wyndham and Kununurra, there is still no signal at this point in time. Wyndham is 55 kilometres from this point. Approaching the turn-off or the junction of the Gibb River Road and the Wyndham Road. There it is off to the left. It's the Gibb River Road. Soda Creek. The Grotto is up to the left, or the west of the road. See if we can book into Parry Creek Farm Caravan Park. Called through there for a cup of coffee a couple of times in the past. Now hopefully we can sample some of the hospitality as a caravan park. Turn into the Parry Creek Road. Parry Creek Farm Tourist Resorts, about 8 kilometres in. That tells us the cafe is open. It's worth a visit out there just for that on its own. This is the Marlgu Billabong area. town of Wyndham is in two parts. The new residential area, which is reached first as you drive into the town, and the old port, which is located a couple of kilometres west at Anton's Landing. There are a number of original old buildings in the old port area, including the museum.
Tourist information centre. Cafe's closed.
Bassey and Five Rivers Lookout is where you really get a look at the surrounding area. The lookout is situated right above the old port and gives views of Cambridge Gulf and the five major rivers that enter it. The Forest, Pentecost, King, Durack and Ord rivers all enter the Gulf at Wyndham. The Crocodile Farm and mudflats to the north are clearly visible from the lookout. The MV Kalama was sunk by Japanese raiders during the war and lies in the water 40 metres north of the present wharf. A little further around as you descend the hill, there are lookouts that give you views of the residential area and plains to the east of the town. Monday the 22nd of July, we left Parry Creek Farm, and we're heading back out to the main road and then turning towards Kununurra, the final destination of this first part of our Savannah expedition. Kununurra was gazetted as a town in 1961. Its main purpose was to service the Ord River Dam and the irrigation project it was built for. The town is fully serviced and is the centre from where most tours of the area originate. Kelly's Lookout is just a couple of kilometres out of town. Lake Kununurra lies behind the diversion dam and is a popular swimming, boating and further upstream skiing area. out along the Weber Plains Road. Here the RB Desert Seed Company, and you also have the hoochery. Hoochery, you can taste their rums and other flavours. You can also have lunch if you wish between 11 and 2, and it's not a bad little food lot. This is Miramar National Park. It's right in the middle of Kununurra. It's a pay-as-you-entry type situation. It's a coin machine at the gate. Miramar National Park is right on the outskirts of town. It is also known as Hidden Valley. The rock is some 300 million years old and is very similar to the rock structure at Purnululu National Park. Here in front of us is guiding us down to where we're going, which is the helipad. just been having a look at the sunset from the Panican lookout here at Argyle, and this is the main road that we came up to get to it. Well worth the trek. I don't think I'd bring the family sedan though. Lake Argyle is Australia's largest artificial lake by volume. The construction of the Ord River Dam was completed in 1971 by the American Bravo Corporation. The dam was officially opened the following year. The earth-fill-only dam wall at Lake Argyle is the most efficient dam in Australia in terms of the ratio of the size of the dam wall to the amount of water stored. The lake was named after the property it partly submerged, Argyle Downs. In 1996, the spillway wall was raised by 6 metres, which doubled the dam's capacity. Lake Argyle normally has a surface area of around 1,000 square kilometres. The lake has filled to capacity in 1973 and the spillway flowed until 1984. Lake Argyle, together with Lake Kununurra, is part of the Ord River irrigation scheme. There are currently some 150 square kilometres of farmland under irrigation in the East Kimberley region. The original plan was for dam water to irrigate rice crops for export to China. However, these plans were scuttled as waterfowl, particularly magpie geese, ate rice shoots quicker than they could be planted. Other crops are now grown, but Lake Argyle still remains Australia's most underutilised lake.
Argyle Diamond Mine, one of the largest diamond mines in the world, mainly producing industrial diamonds. Submerged islands here in the Boab Islands, some still just underwater, some poking their heads up a little bit.
The damming of the Ord River has caused major changes to the environment. Flows to the Ord River have been severely reduced, and within Lake Argyle itself, a thriving new ecosystem has developed. The lake is recognised as an important wetland area. The lake is now home to 26 species of native fish and a population of freshwater crocodiles currently estimated at more than 25,000. While the official website states that only incidentally a saltwater crocodile is found, other experts disagree. Cane toads reached the dam in late 2008, mostly via travelling along the Victoria Highway, with numbers rising significantly during the 2009 summer. The lake with its surrounding mudflats and grasslands has been identified by BirdLife International as an important bird area because it supports about 150,000 waterbirds.
That bridge coming down to the right is known as Point Patsy. But Hagen Island also goes by another name, Crocodile Island. You can see why the head of the crocodile is starting to open out. That's Cairns Bay out there. Swing here. I don't want to hit you in the head. Okay, thank you. Hey guys, come on. Here, back. Come on. Back. Come on. There you go. Which I'll tell you about a little later. But they wouldn't go swim for it. They got trapped up there and I starved to this. Here's a new, yeah. That's Bob, sorry. That's Bob. Or is it a female? I'll tell you. I don't fly a whammy. Oh. The way you tell, yeah, the yellow eye for a female and the male always has a black eye.